Hi, everybody. This is Dan from Menominee, and well, I have Ron with me now. Actually, I was thinking I was doing this to Audacity.
Oh yeah, that was the plan.
That was the plan, but we can introduce it to we're kind of like we're like the Bob and David of Dan and Ron's. So yeah, we got to present it together. Anyway, we have a very special guest on the program for you tonight, or this morning, or whenever this gets to you.
All day long.
Yeah, all day long on repeat. You play it over itself, out of sync. The only limit is how many speakers you have in your house and how many
At that moment.
at that moment. Yeah. Anyway, so we have independent filmmaker and documentarian Caveh Zahedi, known for several films, including A Little Stiff, I Don't Hate Las Vegas Anymore, and I Am a Sex Addict. His most recent project has been a continuous web series slash TV show for Brooklyn Public Access Brick TV called The Show About the Show. His motif across his films is that he's following his own life. When they're documentaries, he's using bits and pieces of whatever kind of audio visual ephemera he can wring out of his own existence. When they're, I guess, less documentaries, they're pretty much always reenactments of events in his life. In particular, the first film, A Little Stiff, is literally just 7-10 minute long shots, kind of like Jarmusch's Stranger Than Paradise, but not actually like as a film. It's not really anything like Stranger Than Paradise beyond the fact that there's these 10-minute shots that are all recreations of moments when he was a student, had an awkward crush on a woman, and then accidentally took too many mushrooms, like way too many mushrooms. I'm not going to ruin the movie for you, but you should go check it out. Yeah, and so somewhere in this strange no man's land between our real lives and what constitutes television, Caveh Zahedi has been out charting the territory for a very long time.
And we're gonna have him on the show.
Yeah, cool.
Right now.
Right now.
Yeah, sweet. All right.
Now let's cut the regional promos.
It's Pepsodent, and we're here to say. Okay.
Hi, Las Vegas, Nevada. Take a gamble on us. A nominee with Ron and Dan. Tuesdays at 9. Hi, everybody. It's Dan.
And this is Ron.
This is Elizabeth.
And
I'm Caveh.
Hi, Caveh.
hi. So today we have a special episode. We have a guest with us, filmmaker Caveh Zahedi. We're going to talk about a couple of his movies. And yeah, cool.
And
So,
shows.
and shows. Yeah. There's like a show and a spin-off show. There might be other show type things that I'm not aware of.
So at some point, this is going to be the show about the show about the show.
It's just gonna recurse for a long time. So how you doing, Caveh?
I'm okay. I've had a long day, and I was thinking maybe I should smoke some pot.
Go for it.
I just did.
Oh,
Okay,
I
shall
can
we-
join you.
Yeah.
Do you want to stop it and restart it, or should I just start smoking pot while we're doing this?
Do you have a preference?
No, I just need to go get my stuff.
I'll get my stuff too.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me
Okay.
Dan's stuff is
I'll be right back.
to him.
all right, let me snuffle.
Do you guys edit these?
Yeah, we edit. Well, Ron does most of the editing.
Yeah.
Like 90, and we kind of edit for like silences, coherences, there is no such thing as coherences, things like that.
When we talk, we often have long silences and like that. So that comes.
Years.
We end up out of if we record for an hour, we end up cutting out at least 10 minutes of silence. This is funny. I was making a point of not smoking, and all right, let's do this. Oh, and I want to show you. Check out the grinder I'm using. It's the Death Star from
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You guys are not in the same space, obviously, right?
Yeah, we're in different places.
Right.
I'm in Cambridge.
We're quarantining.
Yeah, usually we record the show where we're sitting right now, but obviously disease, so
Yeah.
Right.
we're changing it up, keeping it fresh.
So you guys are a couple?
Yes,
yes,
Dan and I
yeah.
are. Yep.
I'm not.
Right. And you're in
Yeah,
Cambridge, Massachusetts?
I'm in Cambridge. They're in. Do you know the Boston area?
A little.
So they're in Jamaica Plain, which is part of Boston. And where are you?
Oh, you guys are in Boston too?
We
Yeah,
are.
yeah, we're all like we're about
I see, I see.
20-minute drive
Uh,
from each
Yeah, I'm
other.
in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have things been kind of crazy there?
Yeah. I was actually. I don't know. When we keep this, should we just keep this whole thing to get the full feel, or should we cut this part? We'll edit it partly. So.
Right. See how it goes.
Okay, whatever you want.
All right.
Cool. So
I just try to exhale out the window,
Uh-huh.
so that's why I keep departing. But I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
Wait, do you live alone, or do you live with anyone?
I live alone.
Oh, okay. So this is just your own choice to keep the room not smelling of pot.
Yeah,
I mean,
boxer
I have my kids come over and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
makes a lot of sense.
Oops, I gotta push away my phone and not be distracted. All right, I have a little more.
So how's the pandemic been treating you?
Ooh. Okay, that's the usual. That means it worked, right?
I guess so.
I think I'm good.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
cool.
I have to just full to be fully transparent. I'm also on let's see, it's half a tablet of Valium. It's so 5 milligrams, 2.5 milligrams, because I'm starting to feel an anxiety attack. So. I was 2 weeks ago. I had a really bad anxiety attack, and my friend took me to several urgent care places, and they're all either closed, only accepting COVID patients, and then one of them wouldn't take my insurances and wouldn't tell me how much they were going to charge me. So I ended up in the ER. The hospital was the only place that would take me, but they were that particular hospital wasn't accepting COVID patients. Most of them go to the Mass General and other places. Anyways, the point is I've been having anxiety attacks. So I don't take Valium recreationally, and I don't understand why anyone would, because it's the most boring feeling in the world. So
I've never done it.
oh yeah, I don't.
Me neither.
What does it feel like? Does it feel like watching commercials, or like waiting for something, or like what was it?
Well, like watching commercials, but not any good ones. It's like the same commercial over and over and over. So no, yeah, just sort of like.
It relaxes you, right?
What was that?
It relaxes you, right?
Yeah, it relaxes me. So one relaxes me. Two, I'm asleep for the next 4 hours. So it's not like going into a K-hole or something like that. K-hole, you might not be moving, but there's stuff going on. With Valium, you're just either like or sleeping. So. And the dreams weren't even interesting.
But there's a value to relaxing, I think.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the reason for taking it, because otherwise I'm physically doing that and mentally doing this. And that's a good point. That's a good point. People might take it to relax, even if they might have anxiety, like some anxiety disorder that they don't realize, and that's what they're just self-medicating.
Yeah. What do you guys do for a living?
I guess I'm not really doing anything right now, but I was walking dogs and buying and selling old things. So books, records, DVDs, video games, posters. The apartment's a little crazy, but there's it's sort of like the commercial crypt keeper, just selling stuff out of the apartment.
I take credit for what is it, about 100 of the LPs there. My aunt and uncle were aunt and uncle were clearing out their space, and so you've got like 30-40 years worth of stuff, including several giant crates of LPs. So I weeded through them to to see stuff that might be of some value, and then gave them all to Dan.
You guys are old friends?
Known each other
feels like it. It feels like old friends.
Yeah.
I think about 2 years.
2 years.
And how long have you been doing the podcast?
A little bit less than a year.
Yeah. I keep posting it as season 1, even though it's now episode 40. This will be episode 43, I think.
I think there were 43 episodes in the first season of The Honeymooners.
Oh,
so we're gonna go straight to the moon. Excellent.
Yeah, maybe this can be like the big season finale.
Yeah.
Right, because we're like in charge of that.
Wait, so I kind of I have a feel for this too, but how are you dealing with the quarantine or the stay-at-home orders hours and stuff being alone, living alone.
Well, I see my kids every day.
Oh, right.
That's
So
good.
I'm not totally alone, but I'm alone at night half the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it feel, or how do you manage it? Because I know. Well, no. I want to hear you. Every time I ask a question, I start talking about me.
It's not a good interviewer.
No, not at all. No.
I read the thing you wrote, Dan, about the show. I was very touched by it. Thank you for writing that.
Oh, thanks. Which thing?
I just remember like it was some kind of like pick of the or something like.
Oh yeah. We
Yeah.
did our like best TV of the decade, and it was
Yeah. I think that's what it was.
immediately
Oh,
popped
yeah.
to mind. Yeah, because like there was nothing else quite like it on. I mean, I've like been watching way too much TV for about 10 years now, and telling myself that I'm going to write a book about it. I have like a bunch of kind of incoherent rambling in WordPad files, kind of tucked away. But
That's how it all begins.
yeah, I just kind of, you make a big enough pile and then you burn some of it, I guess, right? And yeah, whoa, I am stoned. Whoa, okay.
You inspired us well, Caveh. Yeah, Dan's been telling me
But
about.
no, yeah, no,
about ones
it's
I've
like
known.
it's not like anything I've really seen on TV. Like there's a little bit of Curb Your Enthusiasm, except for it, like the tone's completely different. Like, but yeah, it's like it feels, yeah, like it handles, because I think a lot of TV is about kind of TV replacing reality, or eventually all of TV kind of or all of, wow, that Freudian slip there, right? But all of reality kind of having to answer to TV, right? Like every reality television show, the ultimate moment of truth is the contestants looking at a television show, the other contestants doing things. Or there's even a little bit of that in Show About the Show in the early episodes, when you have like Sam sit down and watch the footage of the prior episode. You have the argument with him, and I thought it handled it in a really interesting way, because I think like the characters in a lot of these shows, it always comes out of this like pure place of ambition of some sort, and you're just kind of like following things, like going like things are just sort of, they're moving towards something, but they're not moving towards some like endpoint.
In the show, about the show, you mean?
Yeah, it kind of, what you're saying kind of reminds me of like the anthropology of becoming a little bit, kind of like just the process of things happening. But
What's the anthropology of becoming?
it's basically kind of like, it's not really a branch of anthropology, but it's kind of like a theory of anthropology that sort of focuses on like sort of people living their lives as this ongoing process of becoming something. Sort of like the idea that we're never like reaching an end goal and just stopping there. We're always constantly evolving, and everything's always in motion. And it's kind of like looking at, anthropology and like cultural studies and human behavior through that lens. But yeah, what Dan was just saying reminded me of that. And I think
well, like
yeah.
some of the things I was thinking of when I was watching it, because we watched the entire run of the Show About the Show over the weekend to get prepared for this, and
including the
watch a couple.
second season for the first time.
Yeah.
You know what? Can I pause there for one moment? So for not all our listeners know what we're talking about.
A good point.
The main thing that we watched was the Show About the Show. We have the writer, director, editor, or that was sort of a
Object
of the Show About the Show. And I think someone should explain it a little bit. Caveh, you've probably been asked to explain the show or describe it many times. If you wouldn't mind just doing so one more time, just so our listeners will know, but do it in whatever way you want.
I mean, I just always say that it's God, what do I say? Forgot what I say. Well, every episode's about the making of the previous episode. That's the basic. That's the basic thing. And that's only true for season 1. So season 3 is about the making of season 2. So it's just like jumps to seasons. Is that enough?
How would you describe the difference in season 2?
Well, season 2 is a 3-month period. Really, it's like one episode, but like a really long one. It's one bit of chunk of time and not anything about itself within it. That comes season 3.
Oh, okay. So the sense that I got was the intended sense, because I actually started thinking that in the middle of watching and say, wait, this is less the show about the show. This is more the show with some elements of it.
Yeah, I mean they're hard to extricate those two strands sometimes, but yeah, more or less.
Were you surprised by that development, like sort of what Ron just said about like transitioning between the seasons, like going from being like the show about the show to more of the show?
Was I what?
Like were you surprised about how it evolved like over the course of the seasons?
Yeah, I mean I didn't see it coming. I mean I didn't know where it was going to go.
Right.
I mean the nice thing about it is it's easier to accept tragedy if you can at least film it.
Right.
Wait, I don't understand. So I'm not as my mind doesn't operate at as high a level as Dan's and Elizabeth. That operates here. So well, I sometimes need explanations. So what did you mean by that about tragedy?
Oh, just like it's like if there was no film, if you just had like the tragedy, it seems really more tragic because it's not turning into art.
Right.
It's just lost. It's just pure loss.
It's just like a bad thing that happened.
Yeah, but if you film it and you make it beautiful, then it's like, oh, you've saved it, you've redeemed it. It still lives or something.
So like a good monument to a bad thing that happened.
Yeah, and it was for a reason, and you're glad it happened. You know, like reality is redeemed somehow by being represented.
So it's like almost like a God substitute.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around a God substitute.
Well, right, because if there isn't a God to redeem reality, then like our own kind of spectating reality is what therefore has to redeem reality.
Okay.
In some form or another. I mean that, or you have to kind of create some kind of like the Ernest Becker thing with the immortality projects and denial of death, where he's like you read this more recently than I did, but like you're kind of creating some kind of project that's essentially like a way of suggesting you're going to transmigrate in some sense, or like exist after death.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, of course, the only American who actually gets to transmigrate is Elvis, but
Right.
like that, I mean, I'm sure on some level that's the podcast, right? Like it's a large pile of something.
So I was gonna ask something just totally like unrelated. Is that
Sure, whatever you want.
Okay. So I was watching in addition to the seasons, I was watching Interview. It was at Brick. I don't remember when it was, but you talked a lot about radical honesty. Did I say it right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Which you practice?
I try. Yeah.
I always say if you shoot for the moon and you get at least 1 foot up above the ground, that's a success because you got 1 foot up higher. So so we all try and succeed as much as we can.
I mean, I think it's hard to be maximally honest every moment, but I think that is kind of the goal. Yeah.
How do you consider how it affects people? Because it is, I mean, the name is in there, radical. It's not something that's usual. It's not something that normally happens. So do you consider how it would affect other people?
Yes and no. I mean, I just feel like you don't know how it's going to affect other people. You know, it's like, and something might look bad to somebody at a certain moment, but then it looks good to them later. Like it's not a fixed thing in time. And so it just seems like just be honest. Just say what just hew close to reality, and you don't have to like take a moral position about it. You just like, this happened, and people can judge for themselves what they think about it. But it's important to witness to it or something.
So I'm trying to to like really see the difference between these. I feel that it's really important to be honest. And if I'm just, I have a really hard time with me being dishonest, and I won't lie, and even doing like little white lies. Like I'll be discreet about if people are telling me something, in private. That's different. That I'll keep to myself. But if I screw something up, I'll cop to it. I'll be the one that says it. But I'm trying to just put my finger on it. What is the difference between that and radical honesty? Because they do feel like there's a lot more to the radical portion.
Well, I think most people seem to me to have as their ethic, try not to hurt other people. Like it's kind of a very defensive ethics. It's like, don't harm. It's kind of the Hippocratic Oath. And then they define harm in this very narrow way, which is like it hurts somebody's feelings, And somehow there's this kind of like taboo against hurting people's feelings, which I think is really weird because feelings get hurt, and that's how they grow, and that's how people mature is through that. And to try to like avoid the pain of that is also avoiding the gift of that, and it just seems like a mistake. And also, you could hurt someone's feelings, but you could really help them at the same time. Like, people have hurt my feelings, but like you survive and you grow from it, and often like it like helps you. You just don't know it, and you don't want it. Like you're like, I don't want this reality, but it's just reality.
Yeah.
It's just like, can you handle reality? And a lot of people can't. But like we're here to handle it. We're here to embrace it, and we do that by calling things what they are and not trying to call it something else so as to not hurt people's feelings. We don't know what that is. We just, but we it's like we think it's important. Like we think that's more important than honesty. Feelings are they weigh heavier than honesty, and I think it's wrong. I think the scale should be the other way around. The honesty should guide you, not the trying not to hurt people's feelings. And we often don't even know. I mean, we don't even know what their feelings are going to be. It's just an assumption about the situation based on a very partial model of reality that's made even more partial by people not being honest with each other.
But you do always take the risk that if the person responds negatively and very negatively, I mean, they might never want to talk to you again.
Sure. Yeah. That happens.
So then,
I mean, you have to value honesty over your immediate self-interest or your assumed self-interest, because often, if they don't like who you are, if they don't like the truth of who you are manifesting itself, they probably don't want to hang out with you, really.
Yeah.
Like there's probably like a lie that's being perpetrated that is enabling the hanging out when there's not a common ground.
Well, here now, okay, we've been talking for I don't know about maybe close to a half hour now. You see us. Can you present some radical honesty to me from the little bit that you know now?
Wait, what does that even mean?
Well, I want you to say something about me, and
Oh wait, this reminded me. We used to have these Festivus parties when I was like a teenager. We would try to do like all the rituals of Festivus, and one of the rituals of Festivus, which Festivus is like a sort of fake holiday that's celebrated on December 23rd, and one of the things is the.
Didn't it originate with Seinfeld?
Yeah, it was like a Seinfeld episode, but
Right.
one of the things is the airing of the grievances, and you sit in a circle. Usually you do it with friends, not family, and everybody just kind of one time per year sits in a circle and says everything that's annoyed them about each other. And we did it one year, and it like worked really well.
Oh,
and
wow.
It felt like this really deep thing afterwards. Like I felt like I kind of, because I have autism, so I don't fully get like what people are trying to intone through like body language and stuff. So it was like really like weirdly helpful. Of course, the next year we did it, and then somebody like said that somebody's socks looked gay or something, and there was almost a fist fight outside of the feats of strain. That was one, but I thought that was like a really cool moment. I don't know. This is like making me think of that.
But it's missing something. It's got the airing of the grievances, but there's also the airing of the thing that you accept and the thing that you like about them. It's everything. Right?
Oh yeah, well I think that's kind of like what Ron was asking Caveh to do, right? Like Ron, you were kind of like, hey, like be brutally on roast me, or you're not like, well, not like roast me, but like, right?
Yeah. So can you do that to me?
Well, I don't have any grievances yet.
No, it could be anything, just your thought. What's your honest thoughts?
You seem like a very nice person and like a very honest one too.
Thank you.
It's true. I think it's also like something that, I mean, going back to what you were saying before, Caveh, I think it's also it can also be more hurtful to people in the long run when people don't tell the truth about certain things.
Yeah.
And
It slows down evolution. It's just like a break on evolution. Like things are moving
right.
organically towards something, and you're like, no, too painful. Don't do it.
Move away.
You know what? This just happened. I forgot. So there's a woman. I prefer not to say other people's full names, so I'll just call her C. She was flaking out on some stuff, and I was starting to hold a grudge. But I didn't want it to ruin our friendship. So I was thinking. Actually, I was talking to Elizabeth, getting some advice about talking to her. But the whole time, what I was doing, I wanted to be honest with her and have that honest conversation. But what I was actually doing was I was dealing with not the feelings that she might have and the feelings that I have and the feelings that I was imagining that she might have, and therefore respond to me in a way that I don't like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And really at the end of the day, what it was and what did it was be honest, and then the rest worked itself out.
Yeah, I think it does. I think honesty is just in alignment with reality. That's why it's true.
Right. It's a lot easier to deal with what you actually know than to continue to speculate about unknowns.
Yeah, like we could live in ourselves. We don't have to like not do that.
Right.
Right.
Oh, by the way, C was the one that introduced us. So I've known her for about 4 years. I used to work with her, and then one day she introduced us as you have to be you guys have to be friends. It was and she was right. It worked out well.
And that was the beginning of the podcast.
Right. If it weren't for her, there wouldn't be a podcast.
Right.
So you listened to some of the episodes?
I don't think I did. I think I.
Oh, okay.
I probably like clicked on it and it was too slow for me, and I just was like.
Oh, okay. Oh, right at the beginning, you have to go through about a half minute of the opening music. So that right there's a reason to stop.
I had a question about I think I saw a couple of your earlier films, so maybe this has been like a long time, but when was kind of the first time you started realizing that you wanted to really embrace radical honesty, and what were there any events that kind of acted as catalysts in your life or was it more of a gradual process, I guess?
Yeah, I think it was very gradual, but I think I've gotten more and more honest. Like I think it's been moving in that direction sort of steadily for a while.
Is it just practice makes perfect kind of thing, or has anything changed?
Yeah, I think it's practice makes perfect. I think also I just find the older I get, the less I care what people think.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. I may look almost as young as the two of them, but I'm actually nearly twice your age.
So something like that. Yeah.
I'm at least 20 years older. So I've gone through the longer period of caring less about what people think. Yeah. You see my hair goes down on my face, and when I go out to the grocery store or something, I'm not supposed to touch my face. So I wear, do I have it here? I wear a Wonder Woman tiara to hold it up. Because it's like, if I'm going to put something on my head to keep my hair out of my face, I'm going to have fun with it. And then it's like, I don't care what other people think of as I'm walking in the street with that big W in there. So
I think there's all sorts of new fashion trends that are going to be coming out of this.
Like what else?
Or just like masks, that, and like ways to try to deal with hair that's growing out of control. But
it's like ninja fashion, right?
Right.
Like I've been playing all those old video games to pass the time lately. Like I don't know, every like kind of just sort of filler ninja in every old video game, and there's like so many of them. They're just all wearing like COVID masks, right? And that's what makes them a ninja versus just like a dude with a knife, right? Because they're not like doing anything that fancy because it's 8 bits. They're just kind of like like over and over again.
I'm gonna have to get better at the rest of that. Being a ninja thing, but
yeah, but no, like you walk outside, everybody just looks kind of like like the whole spectrum now is just like surgical to ninja.
Right. Right.
So Caveh, I know. Can I reverse and do some radical honesty on my end for you?
Sure.
Like to. All right. So I watched all 2 seasons of the show about the show. It was great. I was watching them. Some I watched a bunch in a row. Then paused. Watched some we watched together. Some I watched on my own. And actually, I accidentally watched some of the Sundance season because I got confused on YouTube. I really enjoyed all of them, and in fact, I told Dan and Elizabeth, I said, you reminded me of myself somewhat when I'm not when I'm here interviewing or something like that, but when I get really excited about telling a story or something in my life and the way but all that said, so yeah, different ways I was connecting, and the whole story was amazing. And then came the end of the last episode in which I forget his name, he broke the Peter broke the wedding video, and your complaint about it was that you can't use it in the show, and that was the if there was any emotion associated with it, it was about the show, not about thinking about the love for your ex-wife. And at that point, I didn't like you, and I was gonna watch another movie in which you shroomed with 2001. You shroomed with
Will Oldham.
Yeah. I put it on. I was about to watch, and then I said, no, I still don't like him. And for some reason, the YouTube recommended Gene Wilder interview, so I watched that instead, and then I watched Young Frankenstein. And then I finally got over that, and so it's like, no, wait, everything was great. So that's one little piece of it. But like, how does it make you feel that I said, that I liked you for a period, and then suddenly I didn't like you?
How's it feel?
Yeah. I'm back to liking you, by the way. It was just a short period.
It hurts, it hurts not to be liked. I mean, this is Morrissey line. He says, I don't want to be judged anymore. I just want to be loved. I just want to be blindly loved.
Blindly loved. Okay.
And I feel like that's what we all want. We just want to be loved. We don't want to be judged. And whenever anyone has a judgment, any kind of negative, like I don't like you, or I don't like this about you, or I don't like this, there's always a judgment there, and it hurts. It's not what we want, but it happens. And I think it's really common. And I think people hide it a little bit, or try to, but it's there and it's operating, and it's better to like really look at it, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think the assumption there is that I'm supposed to have a certain, it sounds to me the way I read it, that I'm supposed to have a certain kind of reaction to the breakup.
Yeah.
And I'm not having that reaction, and that's like a moral failing somehow. Like the correct moral reaction is a certain emotion that is not present here.
Right.
And I don't know why that's true, that is like, that's the good and the other is not good. Like one is true and one is a fantasy of what should be, right? And it's a fantasy based on certain assumptions that may not be operative in this instance. And in terms of your question, I mean, I think there's a few things there. One, like the love had died a long time ago, and it just wasn't, what was needed was separation or liberation, whatever you want to call that process of divorce. And and the other is that there is pain, but the pain is also repressed because it's so painful. And so you have to just sort of make a joke about it, or sweep it under the carpet in some way. And that's another way to read it, So you can read it as repression. You can read it as callousness, I guess, which is the negative reading. And you can also read it as just like the time frame is different than you imagine. Like either it happened already or it hasn't happened yet. But there is obviously grief in that kind of situation. But it had been long. I mean, I think we've both been grieving the relationship for a long time. It's like you just grieve alone because you can't join around it.
And maybe I didn't appreciate that enough, or say I was seeing that throughout, but then once there was that one little bit that of callousness, that one little bit of callousness, it's like it suddenly stopped all that, and it said, wait, is this really the person that I thought that I was? Well, let's say this person that I was loving this whole time, and now suddenly, is this really him? Is he really this wonderful person? And
that seems like it would be part of the kind of trade-off of like radical honesty, is that you're sacrificing a lot of the comfort from repetition that people people are expecting out of you from kind of performance of rituals repeated, like the performance of repeated small social rituals.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think we have a tendency to want to put people on pedestals, but I think what that final scene, like for me when I was watching it, I think it revealed how like complex like your emotions in that moment were, because we see like you and, well, in the recreated scene we see like both of you like grieving like while you're watching the wedding video, and like we see that sadness, and that's like true, and then it's also simultaneously true that you had a creative impulse to use that material because it was compelling.
Well, I think the fact that it's an actress kind of makes it like more evident that how over the relationship is, right?
Yeah.
Because we're watching it end and we're not even seeing the actual person.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought of it that
that's
way.
one of the beauties of the show. I know.
Right. She's like, I'm out of here. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also there was an earlier cut where I didn't say that. I used to just say what I really said. I think in the thing was we were both just like, how's that going to save our marriage? Like it was just about like thinking that the ritual that he was doing was absurd. And I think it was actually Peter's idea that I should add something about the tape, because I mean I was mad about the tape, like it wasn't like I wasn't mad about the tape. I was like, what the fuck, man, we could have used that. That was a real thing.
Right.
But the other thing was also operative. But when you tell a story, you pick what you're going to talk about. And there's also something, I don't know, I'm always drawn to just sort of like for example, there is something callous about that. It's true. There's something, but that's kind of what's beautiful about it. Like it's callous, and humans are callous, and it's nice when you can like see it and embrace it and affirm it, and not be like, oh, this is shameful, or I should hide this, or no, I'm not callous. I would never. It's just like it's what you underline in the complexity of the thing. Like, what is the thing you're gonna underline? And the callousness is the funny one. Like the funny choice is to be callous, right?
Right.
The other thing would be like tragedy, and the show is a comedy. It's just like, it's always going to veer towards the comic choice, not the tragic one. I just watched Melinda and Melinda last night. Have you guys seen that movie?
No.
Yeah, a long time ago, the Woody Allen one with Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait, Woody Allen with Will Ferrell? Well, I don't know about this.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but go ahead. You're.
It didn't do that well, and it's not that good, but it's got a brilliant premise. And the premise is there's a story being told. There's a comedic writer and a tragic writer are having dinner, and they're talking, and someone tells them this story, and they both, of something that happened, and they both see it. One sees it as comic, one sees it as tragic, and they both speak how they would do the story, like how they would stage it, And as they're telling the story, we see the story happening. So you see these two different versions of the same story, and the woman is the same actress, but the people around her are different actors, and there's just these two parallel realities of the same story, but on a very different tone. And it just cuts between them. And sometimes you go back to the people having the conversation in the restaurant, and it's such a good idea, but the execution is a little lazy or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That sounds really interesting, though.
Yeah, it really is. He had so many good ideas for movies, that guy. I mean, Zelig is like such incredible conceptual work.
I remember watching Zelig at the when I was a kid, seeing it on the big screen. It was my first Woody Allen movie, and I was mesmerized by that. And the whole concept of a human chameleon, and I actually understood that, and I don't know if I internalized it, but in some ways I felt like, am I doing this to myself? And this is me thinking this as a kid.
Yeah.
So you're saying we should watch Melinda and Melinda, or shouldn't?
I think you should.
Okay.
I think it's interesting. It's,
I'd love to see one of those like fan cut, like there's those fan cuts that come out of like, here's Star Wars with like Jar Jar Binks completely cut out of it, or like here's The Godfather completely in chronological order or something. And yeah, you just like take the happy and the sad movies and make them like a Grindhouse style double feature. It's like completely back to back. I don't know. Maybe, I think that was a weed talking.
So Caveh, we've been on the Cut podcast for a while, so we've said a lot of things, but this is your first or one time. What do you want to tell us?
I've got no agenda.
That's okay. What's in your mind?
I'm curious, so what do you guys do for money? Like, I know Dan already said, but like, what about you, Ron? And what about you?
I do software quality assurance, so I test software, and
Uh-huh.
it's really cool. The company that I'm the company that I work for, it's statistical software, and it helps people doing research and at universities, government institutions, and pharmaceutical companies. So they're using our products to help out with the coronavirus and COVID-19.
Oh, uh-huh.
And that part alone makes me love working there. So, I mean,
Uh-huh.
granted, here I'm loving a company, but
Yeah.
what we do, I love working there.
Cool.
And I work at a research institute that studies workers' compensation. And
She injures the people.
Interviews?
Well, she injures the people and then they palliate.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
No, it's definitely less violent than that. And then I do like art photography on the side and other various like creative projects. But the way I make money is the workers' comp stuff. So
But she's being humble about her photography.
Uh-huh. And the podcast it's a film podcast?
Yep,
You guys talk
Every week we watch a different movie
Oh.
that like usually I used to own a record store and there were people because everybody's just getting rid of their DVDs, so people were like leaving garbage bags worth of DVDs in front of the place when I wasn't open. And so when I went out of business, I just had I still have like just these crates and crates, and so I pitched the idea to Ron of like, hey, let's check out some of these movies because I got this giant pile of like, why does this exist, or like looking DVDs. And then I realized like when I got talking to Ron that he has seen like every movie that I haven't seen. Like I was going through like that Ray Carney checklist, whatever that he had on his webpage a long time ago, and I think I've seen like probably 90% of the stuff on there. But I didn't catch most of the stuff that was actually like out, in big commercial releases. And Ron has seen I feel like you've seen every commercially released movie for the last like 30 years.
But I think the most important movie that I introduced the two of you to was Xanadu.
I don't know. What about Lisztomania?
Lisztomania. I'm sorry. Yes.
Lisztomania with like Roger Daltrey.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that movie amazing?
I saw it when I was a teenager. I liked it. Yeah.
Apparently, Dan told me that apparently I'd been like, it was clear that I was obsessed with the movie because I told him and other people so many times to watch this. I didn't realize how much I was trying to sell the movie.
So you seen any other interesting movies lately besides Melinda? You been catching up on any like movie watching during the quarantine?
Yeah. I just saw a film that really blew my mind. Capernaum. Have you guys seen that?
No.
It's a Lebanese. Capernaum. Capernaum.
What's a right name here?
It's devastating. I mean, it's a total masterpiece.
Who directed it?
A woman director from Lebanon named Nadine Labaki or Lebeki, something like that.
Cool.
Would you be able to tell us just a little bit without it being a spoiler, or is it saying?
It's about a street urchin on the streets of Beirut, and he sues his parents in court. He takes them to court.
Oh.
And they're like, "Why were you suing them for?" He says, "For giving birth to me." And then he's like, then he tells the story of like his life, and it's just like devastating.
Yeah.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really sad. I mean, it's hard to recommend something so sad to people.
I watch comedies, and often really mediocre comedies at home alone. But for the dramas and especially tragedies, I always watch it with other people. I need that company.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe you should watch it in a crowd.
Right.
The part.
No one can hear me weep.
So have you been filming anything with the quarantine, or just
No,
no, just no? Yeah, you haven't been vlogging or
no.
no.
Yeah, I'm not motivated. I'm not inspired to. I don't know. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Weird time.
I've been feeling like weirdly inspired to film a lot lately because like I've been watching because we've just been putting YouTube whatever on in the background during the day when she's working and I'm just kind of like doing whatever I guess at this point. And yeah, and there's a lot of like very interesting like web series of just these like people in their kitchens cooking random things. Like we follow this one woman named Simply Sarah where she just has like but you can kind of like follow how this person's life is going because they're giving you all this sort of like inside baseball gossip like while they're grating a giant block of bologna or cheese or whatever. And yeah, I've been like filming stuff around the apartment. I don't know, so something about like a confined space and like that. I don't know, I always like movies in like really confined spaces where it's like focused on the space. Ozu, right? Or like there's some of those John Jost movies in the 80s where he's like he almost seems bored with the conversation that the actors are having.
Yeah.
So the camera just pans away to the wall because he'd rather be looking at the wall.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, those films are good.
yeah. I think like Belle Diamond when they're having the conversation in the kitchen, the camera just literally just leaves the conversation, and it's just sort of like nope, he's just like noping out of it to go. But yeah,
I haven't been. I write and I play the ukulele, and the whole time here I haven't written anything, and I'm having a really hard time practicing. I'm practicing once a week instead of every day. But I started baking. I have no idea where that came from. Last time I baked was in middle school, so there's some time. And they've had some of the cakes I made. Made an Irish soda bread specifically at Elizabeth.
It was really good.
Yeah. But the other thing, I don't know why. The other things that I feel uninspired. Being at home alone at the end of the day turns out to be less inspiring than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I've been editing remotely. That's the main thing I've been doing.
Is it editing?
Yeah.
What are you editing?
Season 3.
Oh, okay.
oh, cool. And so is season 3 coming out on Brick or?
I think so. I'm not totally positive. They were about to decide when the pandemic happened, so it just like got pushed back, and then it was I don't know when they're going to reopen.
Well, but like if they completely run out of stuff, then you kind of got them in a corner, right?
What
like
kind
they
of
got to
corner?
buy the stuff you're editing.
No, they don't have to do anything. I've got no corner.
And are you still teaching? Are you like able to teach remotely right now or?
Yeah. Today was my last day. That's why I had a long day.
Oh, wow.
I taught all day remotely, and it's kind of really draining.
Right, because you're having to like figure out technology while also doing all the things you normally do.
Just being really focused in this one little space for so many hours is kind of not natural,
Right.
In a classroom, you have kind of like, you look around, you move a little bit. Here it's just like this thing, rigid.
A classroom of 1,000 people is more comfortable. I don't know what the right word is than seeing 3 or 4 windows on here for the whole day.
Well, I guess like if they're all sitting in chairs, it just looks like people in chairs. But if you get enough of these like little square windows and these chat things together, it starts looking like bug eyes.
Like what?
Like bug eyes. Like you got all these little like squares and they're like.
Right. It's like a mosaic of faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I work from home normally, so my entire company is remote. So all our meetings are using Zoom, but we have very few meetings. So we do like we're doing now, but then it's over and I don't have another one of these for another 3 days. So then it's manageable. And the meetings, we're very good about not having long meetings.
It's 11 o'clock. I sort of made plans to do something at 11. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's cool.
Thanks so much.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for stopping by.
Any last thoughts?
I know. How long have you guys been together?
Like 4.5 years. Yeah.
Oh man, if you're willing to wait 2 more minutes, well, they'll tell you how they met.
Okay.
Well, so I was squatting basically in an abandoned building, and I was writing a book at this coffee shop during the day, and you mistook me for a homeless person because you were writing your anthropology capstone on homeless musicians.
Well, actually, I we met each other. Well, we met at Uliam's party first, so I knew you weren't like a total rando, but I did think he was quite a townie. And I went to school in upstate New York in Saratoga Springs, and yeah, we met, and we like, yeah, I interviewed him for my capstone, and then then I graduated, and then I moved back to Maine, but we kept talking online, and so eventually,
we
both ended up moving to Boston. So
cool. All right, well, thanks for coming on the show, Caveh.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Great to meet you.
You too. Take care.
And we're looking forward to seeing the third season when it comes out.
Yeah, me too.
All right, take care and keep safe.
Take care.
Take care. Stay safe.
Bye. Wow, that was cool. We had Caveh Zahedi on. We got to talk to him. We talked a lot more than he did.
Yeah, that was an interesting interview. That was like a lot different than the Sarnowski interview.
Very, very different. Very different. Yeah, yeah. But Sarnowski was more like, it turned out to be more questions, and he'd give an answer and talk. We might have a little, and then maybe another. I mean, none of the questions were prepared.
I feel like I still have so many questions that I didn't ask.
Yeah, yeah. That's why sometimes I hope well, wait, 2 notches. There's 2 things I want to say. First, I wanted to say I apologize. I know there might have been a few times, Dan, that I just kind of stopped you so that I could ask a question.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Right. And then, but the other notch is, but I also know that you've told me before that you don't know when to stop, so that you actually want people to tell you when to stop. Is that still true?
Yeah. Like usually it's just sort of, a lot of times the end of a string of things that I'm saying is just restatements of something, because I think that if nobody else said something, it's because they don't understand what I'm saying.
I mean, in my case, it's probably true, but most other people, it's Elizabeth would understand it. Caveh would understand it. Who else? I'm trying to think of other people.
Good. Cool. So should we record like an outro?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know why I feel like wait, I want to do more now, and but I think it's because I got stoned, and I'd planned not to. So just actually, shoot, I forgot to ask Caveh about something. I forgot to ask.
I had like so many questions I could not even get in, but it's okay.
Remind me, another notch. I want to ask a question afterward. So, well, do you guys have any last thoughts about the show or about Caveh?
I think it's definitely one of the most interesting shows I've ever seen. I think it raises a lot of really compelling questions about honesty and privacy and like subjectivity and like the relation between those things. But more than anything, it's just a really compelling show. It's like it's like popcorn that I can't stop eating. And you can't really say that about a lot of people's like normal everyday lives. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think he says something early on in the show, like I think in the first episode, where I think Brick is like asking him about like, I can't remember exactly how it came up, but basically Caveh said something interesting will always happen, and that's something that like stuck with me, because I feel like I always personally feel like nothing interesting is gonna happen, things are boring, and so I find it like very optimistic, like to kind of think about life as like, oh, there's always going to be something interesting happening.
Right.
Like divorce or
right. Or just like complicated webs of relationships and so
subplots.
Okay, Dan, your turn. What are your last thoughts?
I was kind of glad that he started guiding the conversation a little bit early on, if we can be like radically honest right here. Because I do not feel like, I had a lot of thoughts about going into the interview that I should have written out in some form and organized a bit more.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. You were definitely way more prepared because you had like questions.
I didn't have to do that. I had 5 things I wanted to briefly bring up. I actually brought up 2 or 3 of them. Oh yeah, well the first thing I brought up was how, as part of when he said that in episode 12, suddenly, well, yeah, let's keep the word loving, and it's at least within the context of the show. I was loving him, and then that happened, and suddenly I was. And then it went back to, it lasted a little bit. I needed something else, so I'm like, not him.
And I thought that was a really interesting thread when he was sort of responding to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad he let us know more about it. So I've got stuff.
Yeah, because I think like a lot of thoughts I had about it after I finished watching it were like, oh, okay, this does actually kind of fit within this like lineage of television here or there or whatever. But that's not useful in for interview stuff, because I don't think
I don't know, anything's useful, isn't it? I guess it's depend when and how.
But did you ever see Review with Forrest McNeil?
No.
It was this like show that was on Comedy Central a couple years ago.
Uh-huh.
It was who was I forget who the star was, but basically the premise was this guy had a TV show where he reviews life experiences.
What is it? Interview with
Review with Forrest McNeil.
Oh, Review. Sorry, Review. Wait, say the name again.
Review. REV.
Are we still recording?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
A review with anyway, so the show he reviews life experiences for this like public access TV show.
Okay.
So like every episode's like 3 experiences. So like 10 minutes will be how does it in reviewer or people on Twitter send in the suggestions for what he has to do.
Got it.
Everything's like eat 15 pancakes, eat 30 pancakes, divorce your wife.
Wow.
It just like destroys his life over the course of the show, and it kind of reminds me.
Okay, so I've got to watch this. You've already got me.
It's a good show, and it was only on for like 3 years.
You had me at divorce. So can I give my last thoughts?
Yeah.
All right. I know I was setting it up to do like turns. Elizabeth, Dan, Ron. So we each get this. You've been telling about the show for a very long time, and it was not at all what I expected. First of all, he was not at all what I expected. I expected like a hipster in his mid-20s. Mid-20s, early 30s. I didn't realize that it would be, a guy with actually a traditional nuclear family, right? Wife and 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so that was part of, and also, and his style was very, you don't see that very often, except as maybe a character on a sitcom. The one of the neighbors might be, and here's like, oh no, there's a person that's like this, and then like I said, oh my god, and I recognize exactly what he's doing and how he's doing it, and I mean, what I'm doing with these hands now isn't really, I'm not making it up. This is really how I feel. So, but it was not at all what I was expecting too. In that I thought it would be something like every week was a recreation, like a dramatization of the previous week, and then the next week would be a sort of a dramatization of how that week was done, and so on. But it wasn't. There was so much always talking about the previous. Now there were people that were playing there were actors that were playing the real people, but it was sort of, it wasn't dramatizations. It was and here's what happened behind the scenes last time. Okay, now this time, here's what happened behind the scenes last time. So
it's a little bit like Symbiote Psycho Taxiplasm that way.
It is. That's true. That's a good point. I like the title that he had initially, the self-reflective
show about its own making.
Yeah, I agree that it's a bad title, but it's a good
bad title.
It's a bad title, but a great description. Can you say it again?
Self-reflexive show about its own making.
Yeah. Now I wouldn't know what it meant until I watched the show, but now having watched the show, it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what the show is. Wait, do you think I insulted him about that whole bit, about that last bit?
No, because I think he kind of opened up with that, like he had some to work with. Like he seemed to.
Well, it was part of his philosophy, or it was part of his well, going beyond philosophy, it's part of his reality. So okay, but I didn't think about as much about how it. I wanted to know how it affects him. So I guess I'm glad to know that at least. I hope he understood too when I was saying, I love him like this. It was just that one moment, and really, it's like hate isn't really the right word. It's angry, and that's why I needed to walk away for a little bit, get me some Gene Wilder.
Well, I think it tied into the earlier part of the conversation end too, where we were kind of talking about like him making up for disappointment in life by the fact that it was going towards a purpose in the sense of creating this product of the film.
Yeah.
Right. And then that kind of like loops around. There's similar questions like why at the end can he only seem to think about the tape in the show?
Do you realize we are doing the show about the show? We're our own show. We are now.
We're doing like a post game analysis, kind of like Chris Hardwick after Walking Dead, or like those guys on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were making
Long game.
only a sports thing, but yeah, it's kind of like that. So, but it's part of the same show. So,
Talking Dead.
the Talking Dead. Yeah.
Right, The Talking Dead. How is that not a show about like Grateful Dead bootlegs?
All right. Okay, now we can do the outro. I just wanted to get those last thoughts. Oh, wait, hold on. We need to wait for Elizabeth to keep making some faces. Okay, now we can do the outro. Oh, wait. Dan's making faces. Wait, I want to make a face too then. Okay. All right, now we all made faces. Cool. Perfect podcast material. Faces. All right, shall we?
Yeah.
Everyone, this has been a Nominee Questionable Movies. This is Ron.
This is Dan.
This is Elizabeth.
Goodbye and take care.